Chat, I haven't hidden it from you guys, right, or anything like that. I have partnered up with Tacta, right? I've said this in the past. I've made 2 guides there already. So we have the Riven guide with another tier list guide. Luckily, they've made it very accessible to make tier lists here. And I will say Iron to Emerald Elo.
Every move you made, I was watching you.
If you are serious about improving and climbing to your desired league rank, you're in the right place. I've worked on laying out 2 courses that will help you in all aspects to improve. One is about all the fundamentals for the laning phase, and the other one goes in depth on tempo and the mid to late. I've been Challenger for 7 years and I can guarantee you that this will massively speed up your process and reaching any goal that you have set in mind. Both courses have a preview video where you can see the style of the videos, so check those out before anything. You can also always join my Discord to check out some reviews. Alright, let's get into the video. First example we're going to be having is Aatrox. It's either A or B tier. Now, see, I would assume that Aatrox doesn't have the highest win rate in lower elo for multiple reasons. First reason is that Aatrox actually has a pretty high stepping stone in terms of getting decent. Aatrox, although his kit is kind of simplistic, the way you pilot the champion and how you want to combo takes or requires quite a lot of games. When I was picking up Aatrox as a Riven main, I needed like 200 games before I started getting decent on Aatrox. Generally speaking, I don't think the champ is the best for higher elo. To add on to that, Aatrox can't really progress in side lane. He can't really split push. The champion wants to team fight. So for lower MMRs, if you want to solo carry games, I wouldn't recommend playing a champion that is reliant on team fighting. I would want to play a champion that can solo carry games by himself. So now we can also check the win rate of Aatrox. Well, pretty accurate. For Akali, she is either B or A tier. Akali to me, for higher elos, is always a counterpick champion. But some of the downside I have with Akali is that it's pretty hard to get high resources. Once you fall behind, you're pretty useless too. I would put the champion probably on B tier. Let's talk about some benefits. Very high kill pressure, good to snowball, good in skirmishes, right? Skills pretty good, has good AP items. Downsides, it's hard to have high resources on this champion. It's hard to split push. You can side lane, you can team fight, but you can't really progress on side lane unless you kill your opponent. C tier, it's even lower. I think B tier is safe though. One thing I need to mention as well, okay? Since I am a high elo player, it is sometimes, and I'm not meaning this is a flex, a little bit tricky for me to put me in a perspective of like lower MMR and see what are the benefits there, right? Or what really works. But I think my takes is based on logic, and then I sometimes will search up the stat as well to kind of see the perspective. Akshan, I don't know. I don't think this champion goes very high. Very hard to pull off. Hard stepping stone. You need to be very efficient on the champions. Once you fall behind, it's useless. I would maybe put it even in C tier. I don't think the champion is gonna have high win rate. I'm expecting to fight Akshan somewhere here. Oh shit. What? It literally has a negative win rate. Why is it even so high? Maybe it's B tier then. But the problem for me with Akshan and lower elo is that like you need to be having pretty good macro to make the champion work. We got some B tier starters here. Camille. So Camille, I'll put in B tier as well. I think Camille is a decent lower MMR champion. Now, the downside of Camille, right? This champion requires spacing and spacing only. If you are good at spacing, you're going to be good at Camille. Another downside of Camille is that you win most of your matchups level 1 to level 5. Then after level 6, you start losing until you have your first item and then you start winning again, right? In high elo, you will usually get punished from that window between, let's say, level 5 to your first item. In lower elo, however, you can always skill into the game because people don't know how to punish wall and make a shit ton of mistakes. So even if you fall behind, you can always get back. Have low analytics next to it to kind of shape my opinion better and see how my opinion is compared to stats. That's why I also first give my opinion and then look at the stats. The benefits of Camille and lower MMR is that you're always going to be able to scale. Good for split pushing, decent in team fighting. I think this champion is alright. Now, this champion I'm very curious about. I expect it to be pretty decent win rate, but I could be completely wrong. This is a shittier win rate than I anticipated, honestly. Cho'Gath, see, Cho'Gath is a pretty decent champion for lower elo. The lower you go, the better the champion is out of any tanks there too. It's either B or A tier. In high elo, the champion is dog shit, but in lower elo, performs better because it's a stat check tank, right? People don't know how to deal with this passive, the fact that he's basically always healing. And so this champion kind of gets to the hard part of laning phase and gets to skill. So for me, for those reasons, either A or B tier. I expect him to do pretty well in this elo bracket, but you never know, right? D+, but it actually almost has a positive win rate. This tier list makes no sense. Like, how's this like here, right? Like, this makes no sense. Like, these tier lists, I think these stats are complete ludicrous. I almost don't want to look at these stats anymore. Like, it's either A tier or B tier for me. D+, what is that even? Yeah, D+, bro. The champion performs well in lower MMRs, 100%. I think it is fair. Okay, let's put him B tier then. Darius is 100% an A tier minimum. Actually, no, I'll put him in S tier. And this is for multiple reasons. The reason I put Darius so high in lower MMR is that he kind of has everything that you would want as a starting top laner. You have the stat check potential, you have the snowball potential, you are super strong in the early game, and you have quite some patterns to get back even if you fall behind, right? You have sustain, you have very good items right now. He's very versatile. You can split push, you can team fight. I think this champion is really good for all those reasons. Another thing with Darius, like I said, is you just need to know a few things and you can start climbing with this champion. And so those few things are knowing your level up timers and like exactly when you're gonna hit your level ups, and knowing how to cheese level 1 by zoning your opponent from EXP or just killing them straight up. Legit, if you know when you level up and know how to cheese level 1, I think you'll win your lane as Darius, unironically, 80% of the times in lower MMR, because there's barely any champions that can outstat check you. The only one that I've noticed thus far is like a Trundle with Lethal Tempo. That's it. Dr. Mundo, I'm gonna put the champion in B tier. Actually, no, C tier maybe. So there's a lot of flaws with Mundo. Mundo is one of the weakest early game champions. So you have that. Mundo is one of the weakest early game champions. And Mundo has a very linear build path in where he's always building HP, right? So I only pick Mundo in drafts where enemies do not have percentage health damage through items or in their kits. And because Mundo is such a situational pick and so weak in the early game, it's a very hard champion to pull off consistently unless you're super good at the champion. Now, the kit is pretty simple, but yeah, there's only one challenger Mundo player in EU West, and I've never seen anybody even do remotely as good on Mundo as this guy does. So Mundo does get to skill for free in lower elo. That's why I was considering putting him in B tier, but he's still a very conditional pick. So we can look what win rate he has, but I don't expect it to be too high because he's still super situational. Whoa, okay, that's way higher than I anticipated though. I'm surprised to see Mundo with that high of a win rate. I have always stated that Mundo is one of the best scaling champions in the game, and that is because of his passive and his E, where the more HP you have, the more damage he will have. Mundo slaps in low elo. My low elo friends always lose to Mundo. I know he's decent in low elo, right? But I didn't expect him to be this good. I get that's fair to put him in 8 then. I didn't expect him to be that good, honestly. And that is because he has no fallback patterns if you fall behind, kind of. You just become super useless. But I guess that he still has enough strength that people just don't, or just give him the room to skill. And I think that's a really big pattern in the lower MMRs, right? Is that scaling is just so broken. Fiora, I would expect this champion to be at least A tier. Even though she is very mechanically intensive, if you just buy correct items and you get the opportunity to skill, because a lot of low elo games will tend to go a lot longer, Fiora should be amazing around this MMR. Even if you're 0 and 5 and you get your items, you will still be a super useful player. Fiora, compared to some of the other builds like Darius, is a lot harder to pick up. You need a bit more games, but you know, given the metric that you are able to skill in almost all of your games, Fiora should be very good. It's a champion that can kind of do everything besides team fighting, but you're very good in lane, you're very good at split pushing. Split pushing is good in lower MMR, scaling is good in lower MMR, so I think Fiora should do amazing. We can check it. Yep. Oh, okay, well, not surprised to see that. And it should also be pretty high pick rate, right? Well, it's decent pick rate. I expected higher. Gangplank should be pretty shit in lower MMR, so I'll put him in C tier. And that is because this champion is extremely skill reliant. You need skill to pull off the champion. It's a no mobility champion. Sure, he does have an insane scaling, right? But even if you put, let's say, a low MMR player on this champion without good mechanics and or macro, it's going to be very hard to pull off wins consistently. I wouldn't recommend a lower MMR player to play something like Gangplank because you need a lot of games. You don't really have fallback patterns. When you start getting rolled, you will keep getting rolled. Yeah, I don't think Gangplank is good for lower MMR. Perfect. Garen, my favorite one, S tier. I always recommend new players to play Garen, and that is because he just kind of has everything you would want in a lower elo champion, besides the aggression in the early game. You are not that aggressive in the early game. You're losing most of your matchups, but that is fine because you have really good scaling. You have permanent sustain, which will allow you to make mistakes and not really get punished. It's just an amazing champion. So yeah, for any lower MMR player, especially with the W buffs and the item changes that have happened, I think this champion is just absolutely amazing. I would recommend this champion to anybody that's trying to climb. I know that one of the drawbacks to people wanting to play Garen is that he is boring to play, or quote-unquote boring, but I legit thought he was boring myself. But he is not a boring champion to play. He's still dopamine heavy, and it's going to be easier for you to have high CS averages because it's just super easy to farm, right? You always have permanent sustain in your kit, which a lot of sustain got removed from the game, right? Only Ravenous Hydra really gives sustain out of combat at least, and Garen gets sustain out of combat, right? So yeah, this champion is really good. Gnar, probably C or B tier. I don't expect this champion to perform that well in lower elos, probably B tier, and that is because Gnar as a champion is just, I always say this when I get to Gnar, it's like jack of all trades, master of none. He doesn't really do anything well. Half decent engage, disengage, team fight, split push. I don't like this champion too much. I'm curious to see where he lands, but I don't expect him to do too well around this MMR bracket either. Yeah, not a surprise, B-. I think he's pretty safe at B. It's either B or C, but I think he's a little bit better than D, so I put him at B. Gragushka, he's more of a jungler than a top laner, but I put him at B tier minimum. The thing is, Gragas, in my opinion, is the hardest tank to play, but you don't really play him as a tank right now, right? You play him mainly as a mage, but he's extremely skill expressive because all his abilities are skill shots, and if you fall behind, this champion is useless. Also, there's no any bit of magic resist, and this champion falls off too, right? So, the thing is with Gragas is that he's a super oppressive laner, and you know, you can really build a lead and keep expanding that lead, but once you fall behind, you will not get back in the game. Like, if I'm Riven against Gragas, Gragas is supposed to win the matchup, but if I get ahead, Gragas will never get back in the game. And you can't split push, you're decent at team fighting, but your lane is good, but there's a lot of potential mistakes that you can make, and you can't really split push, you can only team fight, so I don't expect this champion to be that good. Gwen, so Gwen I would put A tier or even S tier maybe, but I'll put her A tier because she actually requires pretty good spacing in order to pull off compared to Garen or Darius. I mean, Darius does require spacing too, but it's easier to do than Gwen. Gwen does have a dash, of course, but the thing with Gwen is that the hardest thing about Gwen in higher MMR is that you basically lose, I would say, at least 70% of your matchups you lose in the top lane. So you can't really blind pick that champion because almost everything beats you, and you're trying to go even and to outscale. That is what Gwen tries to do, because you can't really win your lane against most champions, right? So examples are like Yone, Riven, Fiora, Garen, Tryndamere, Jax, all these champions, they kind of beat and outstat check the Gwen. One thing I forgot to mention about Gwen though is that Gwen, again, she wants the skill, lower MMR, you get the skill. I expect this champion to have a good... No, I just disagree. Why is she B+? I think she's A tier at least. B+ is A. B+ is A. Maybe is promise, B+ is A. Next one, Illaoi. See, this one I find hard to place. I think Illaoi is an amazing lower elo champion. My guess would be A tier, minimum. Maybe even S tier. I think A tier is safe. And the reason I think Illaoi is very good for lower MMRs is because she stat checks a lot of people. She split pushes insanely well. It's just a very annoying kid to play against. You land an E, you win your lane, you keep pushing, you keep snowballing, and you know, it's very hard for low MMR players to kind of know how to deal with this champion. Wait! Is she the highest win rate in lower MMR? Okay, she's S tier. I didn't expect her to be that high. Okay, well, the tentacle buffs, okay, fair enough. I didn't expect the champion to be that high, but yeah, I thought A tier minimum. I know the champion is good in lower elo. Let's go for Irelia. I would put Irelia probably in B tier. She is mechanically intensive, is hard to pull off in team fights. She struggles split pushing, she struggles 1v9 carrying a game. I'm gonna go a little bit fast. Jax, I put in A tier, is not super hard mechanically. Jax can do everything in a top laner. He has good early game, good scaling, versatile build path, good at split pushing, good at team fighting, good at skirmishing. Some downside is that you have to manage your health and mana resources pretty decently because he doesn't really have sustain or stuff like that. But you can get it from items. I expect this champion to do pretty well, but I could be wrong actually. A tier. Very accurate. Lovely. I'm getting some good guesses. Yeah, Jace I would recommend to lower elo players. Yeah, probably even C tier. And the reason I put Jace on C tier is because he is hard to pull off, for sure. Especially if you look at the S tier champions as well. If you fall behind as Jace into those champions, you are going to get steamrolled the entire game. Hard to have fallback patterns. I just don't think this champion is good for lower MR players. You need like 200-300 games before you start getting decent on him, so I wouldn't do it. I don't expect the champion to have a very high win rate. Very accurate. K'Sante. Whilst I think this champion is absolutely broken in higher MMRs, it's gonna get changed next patch though. This champion has always struggled in low MMRs, and that is actually because K'Sante is still very skill expressive. He's a tank that has an earth kit, but you need to utilize your combos very well, you need to space well, and you need to know your own timers very well. If you fall behind, you're a dog shit champion. If you get ahead, you are unstoppable, but even then, carrying games as a tank is always going to be harder than carrying games as scaling bruisers. Look at the champions at the top: Garen, Darius, Illaoi. They all like shitting on K'Sante. I wouldn't want to be a K'Sante main in lower MMRs. I don't expect this champion to have a super high win in lower MMRs either. Where are you, Piggy? B-. Okay, hey, we're doing good. Okay, don't ask me about Karma top, because the thing is, if you play Karma top, you are it's probably B tier. Probably not even A tier, because you can't carry games as Karma top. I just want to see her win rate. I actually don't know how she performs here. A? Yeah, I put her at a B. I think you just win lane, but you don't really care at the game. I'm putting her at a B here. Kill should do really well. Kill, I'm probably putting in A tier. And again, that is because in the lower MMRs, you are allowed to skill. So if you are allowed to skill by default, Kill is going to be one of your best champions. That's it. That's my reasoning. Kennen is probably B or even C tier. And that is because Kennen is required to kind of win lane, but his champion is harder to pull off than you would anticipate because you need good spacing, you have no sustain, and you have no fallback patterns once you fall behind. So I think the champion is probably C tier. Kled I would put in A tier. Kled I think is one of those bruisers that has benefited a lot from all the item changes. Starex is fine on him too. But Sundered Sky, Titanic, Hydra, Eclipse, all these items are very good for him. I played one Kled game myself, I had an absolute blast. I think this champion is strong. I think he's versatile. He benefited from a lot of the items. I think he's in a very good spot right now. Probably one of the best spots he's ever been in. And he's a low elo destroyer because people don't know how to play against this kid pretty much. Because he's such a strong stat checker as well. So I expect this champion to do very well. A. Solid. Move on. I'm not talking about LeBlanc top. We play LeBlanc top. Malphite, probably B tier. Could be A tier as well because of its simplicity and its strength in lane still. Plus insane easy team fight. And the thing is with Malphite is you could be 0 and 10 and you can still be the reason why you've won the game just because of one good ultimate, and they are bound to happen with the amount of skirmishes and random stuff happening in lower MMR. But the problem with Malphite is that he is a situational pick. So I am not sure how he performs exactly. Renekton is one of the worst champions right now in the... Yeah, well, look at him. You have statistically a 45% chance to win the game once you lock in this champion. So my biggest advice to you, boss man, is to quit playing this champion. Try Darius, try Garen, drop Renekton. Dude, I haven't put a single champion in D tier yet. Now that we're talking about it anyways, this champion goes in D tier. Mordekaiser. Mordekaiser is a very interesting champion. It has to be A tier. It's a stat checker. You don't need mechanics to play him. He can split push, can team fight. Versatile, can be played against bruisers, can be played against tanks. Kinda sucks against range champions, but even then, you can still probably do well. This champion is a good lower MR player or champion. Yeah. Perfect. That's it. Nasus. So Nasus probably performs a little bit better. Little voice crack too. Lower to a higher MMR. But the problem still stands is, I always say this. When you play Nasus, you are not... You are basically left to the mercy of your opponent instead of having any control yourself, because your champion is so weak in the early game. But with the reason that we are allowed to skill in the lower MMR, maybe Nasus is actually good, right? Can't tell. I really couldn't tell how this champion performs. I'm just curious to see it. B. Where do we put him? B. Safe. Very safe. Olaf has to be minimum A tier. I think he's kind of similar to Darius, but I think he's a little bit more skill expressive with the sense that you have to land your skill shots, but in all fairness, he could also be S tier. It's either A or S tier. Oh wait, yeah, Maokai. I forgot about Maokai. I'll put the champion in A tier then. I believe it's a situational pick. It's a tank. I think it's hard to carry as tanks in solo queue. And that also goes for lower MMR. You are amazing at team fighting and your laning phase is pretty strong. But you cannot split push and you can't really solo carry games. So that's why I put him in A tier. My own instincts tells me to put him in A tier. I think he should be on par with his champions. Okay, we'll put him in B tier then. Ornn, it's a tank, solid for lane, hard to carry. Probably put him B tier. Don't think he goes A tier. Pantheon, he is really good at lane, right? But you need a good macro understanding to carry with this champion, right? And once you fall behind, you are also a useless champion. I don't expect the champion to actually perform that well in low run wars. I don't think he performs that well. Unless I'm just completely wrong again. Ornn is actually way lower than I anticipated too. Oh no, he actually performs way worse. Yeah, I was expecting him to be bad, not that bad though. I mean, I would have put him in B tier considering that he still has such a good laning phase, but all his abilities kind of are skill shots, right? Well, his Q, but that's kind of the only thing he uses. And you have to time your E well. You have to be good with your macro. I can see why this champion performs that poorly. Quinn, probably C tier as well, because out of the range top lane champions, this is one of the hardest to pull off. I don't think this champion has fallback patterns, is reliant on good macro. I don't expect this champion to perform well at all. Poppy should be pretty good. B or even A tier. Problem again, so I find it super hard to rate tanks from lower MMRs. Because Poppy is a super lane dominant champion, right? But you gotta know how to utilize your early game strength. You have super high damages. You can cancel so many things with your W. But again, it is like this champion, even though it's such a simple kit,
it can be pretty skill expressive in terms of spacing and stuff like that as well. So I gotta be honest, it's pretty hard to put some of these champions in there too. Like, I am not really sure. My guess would be B tier, but it could randomly be like super high win rate too. Yeah, no, it is B tier. Okay. Rengar top for lower MMRs, I would probably put in A or even B tier, and that is because this champion is still pretty skill expressive, and if you fall behind and you don't get access to bushes anymore, it becomes really hard to play him. But at the same time, you do have a very strong laning phase, so you should be allowed to get in a good position in the lane. I find it hard, man, because it is so hard to judge. But he's not a good stat checker in that sense. His win rate is super low. His win rate is way below average. No, I guess this champion isn't that good. And he also got nerfed, right? He also got nerfed. Now, for lower MMRs, I might even put him C tier. When I see that win rate, I probably C tier even. Rumble. Most broken laner still in the game, or one of the most broken laners still in the game. But, have you ever played Rumble? And if you die once, you know that you are useless for the rest of the game because you're gonna get outskilled, you can't split push, you're reliant on teamfighting, you're reliant on snowballing. I can't see the champion do well in lower MMRs personally. People probably have no idea how to pilot him. I would guess he's C tier. Yeah, I expected that actually. I expected that. Sett. Now Sett is a better lower elo champion. So Sett in high elo I put him in D tier, unironically. But I think in high elo he is A tier, and that is because his passive is kind of similar to Garen passive, but it's dependent on missing health, right? Not on max health. And so you're a stat checker, right? You're annoying to trade against. His E, his like QW. People don't really check cooldowns that well, so they're not aware of how high Sett's cooldowns actually are. And because of that, they don't really know how to approach him, because people lose a trade against Sett and they're like, okay, I'm never walking up to the champion again. But then, you know, once they get traded on, they don't know how to extend that trade. They only go for short trade, they get fisted, and they don't know how to do anything anymore. Okay, let's do Riven too. Riven is C tier in lower elo chat. Riven is C tier lower MMR, let me explain. And her stepping stone is very hard as well. Yes, she is as well. Look at the meta champions, right? Riven, if you do not have at least 20 games of experience into these matchups, you are not going to have a single idea on how to approach these matchups. All these champions will destroy you. Even most of these champions here will destroy you. Most of Riven matchups are bad for her. She is one of the few top laners that has zero sustain. Zero ways to sustain herself. I think she is very strong, right? She's one of the best top lane champions in the game with gold. Her kit is extremely frustrating to play against. She does have her shield though. You can dodge damage with her shield. But that's about it. I don't expect Riven to have a high win rate in lower MMR. If she has an above 50% win rate, I will concede everything. You can call me a fraud for the rest of my life. But I refuse. Oh, she's right below Rumble anyways. And yeah, easy. Shen, I couldn't tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you. So one of the benefits of Shen, you have strong early laning phase. You're able to impact skirmishes. There's a lot of chaos in lower elo, so maybe Shen benefits. But at the same time, it can also backfire. And you can split push and solo carry games. You only want to team fight. I expect him to be B tier, maybe max. I don't expect the champion to do too well in lower elo. But this is a champion that could surprise me, I guess. Oh shit, no, it's way worse. It's funny that only Renekton is in D tier, by the way. Purge, this champion is so dog shit. What about Udyr? What about Urgot? 2 first-time messages. Welcome. It's very nice to see you. Where is the O in the alphabet? Here is Shen, here is Urgot and Udyr, okay? Oh, come there soon. Singed was one of the most broken top laners on release of this season. I expect this champion to be around A and B tier right now. I remember when I was learning Riven, one of the matchups I struggled with the most was actually Singed, because I had no idea how to trade against the champion, how to deal with him. He has very strong items right now. He was one of the most broken top laners on release. Good AP items, good scaling. Sucks at split pushing, but even if you fall behind, you are like a menace in teamfights, and you're good against melee champions. So I expect the champion to be A tier. So many champions. I guess I should just look more at that. Oh no. Oh, I'm correct. Okay, good. Sion C tier minimum, maybe even D tier. Sion is a champion I consider putting in D tier. Multiple reasons. You lose your lane 80 to 90% of the time. Your scaling is decent, but not as good as most other champions. Kind of suck at team fighting. You're a situational pick. Like I said, you lose your lane, I would say 90% of the time. Your build up is linear, where you're only building health, but if enemy have health a percentage health damage, your champion is shit. I personally only play Sion literally against Malphite blind picks where they don't have a lot of percentage health damage as well. Skipped Shaco. 404 Shaco not found. Okay, but this guy's name is 404 Shaco not found, and he asked about Shaco, so I feel like I have to do Shaco now. But why would you play Shaco top, bro? Here, I got you. There we go. Handshake, boss man. Nah, Shaco top. Why would you play Shaco top? What do you do when you play Shaco top? Besides praying your opponent has a stroke and walks into 5 pre-placed boxes. Ain't that the fact? You're not split pushing. You're not really team fighting. You're hoping people walk into 5... Like, you're hoping your team is winning the game for you, so that you can like sit at Dragon and place like 5 boxes and hope somebody walks in there. Tahm Coco Lounge. I would expect Tahm Coco Lounge to do pretty good for a low elo position because he is a tank that stat checks, which is very annoying to deal with, because people are like, how do I ever land into Tahm Kench? And then if he lands his Q, he deals a shit ton of damage and heals himself. So he has sustain, he can stat check, he has... Yeah, he's a tank that's like very annoying to deal with. So I put him in A tier. Now, of course, the downside is you have no wave clear, you have no scaling, you can't split push, you can't farm draw counts, but that only happens after laning phase and people have a stroke before that. Tahm Kench, B+, put him in A tier. B+ is A. True. Teemo. I would expect Teemo to be somewhere around A or B tier. Probably B tier because I do know that like ranged top laners are super annoying to play against, but the problem is for ranged top laners you need spacing. If you fall behind this ranged top laner, you're gonna get snowballed on, you're gonna get ganked, you have no mobility. Besides like his movement speed, right? You have no sustain unless you go fleet. Yes, you win most of your matchups, but you gotta know what you're doing. And Teemo is pretty hard to play out of lane as well. So even though I think the champion is strong, he's gotten a lot of nerfs, I don't expect the champion to be a high win rate. I could be completely wrong though. No, we're accurate. Trundle I expect to be maybe even S tier. I'd expect. And that is because Trundle, similar to Darius, is one of the best stat checking champions in the game and has a lot of sustain and can split push permanently. So it's kind of similar to Illaoi, right? So I expect the champion to have kind of everything. Because, again, similar to Darius, if you know how to cheese level 1, either invading enemies 2v1 or zoning your opponent from the first 3 mains worth of XP, and learn how to snowball from that position, and just know your level up timers, and then split push, like you just don't even need that good macro. You're just gonna go open up to the side lane where your opponent is not, or if you beat your opponent, you go there, and you just climb that way. And I think it's a very consistent strategy. A? Nah. This champion is S tier. I'll put him in S tier. Tryndamere is kind of the exact same as I said with Trundle, but harder to do. So I probably put him in A tier. Yeah, that's it. That's the extent of Tryndamere. This one just makes no sense to me. I mean, do I want to classify Twisted Fate as a top laner because he's kind of being played top right now? I'll probably put him in B tier. I guess Twisted Fate is actually being played right now. It's such a disgusting thing where you go Fleet Nimbus, you go 80 Twisted Fate top. It's like very parentless behavior if you play 80 Twisted Fate top, but you can split push, you can get catches, you can win lane, you're very annoying to play against. It was even played in LEC yesterday, so it has to be at least half decent. It is being played. And the win rate is not that bad. Udyr, a decent champion in high elo, but even there a lot of people actually don't know how to play this champion. So Udyr top is one of the most annoying champions to play against as a melee bruiser, but a lot of people don't know how to play, like actually use his abilities. So I'd expect him to maybe be B or even C tier. I actually expect him to be C tier for lower MMRs, mainly because of his nature of being skill expressive, and then you are a tank that is skill expressive, so very similar to K'Sante, but it's even harder in my opinion than K'Sante because this champion has like CC lock, very clear kill windows. Udyr doesn't really have that. Oh, he's even D tier. I'm down to put this champion in D tier too for low elo, honestly. I wouldn't recommend this champion to any lower elo player. See, I don't want to rate Varus and Vayne top, but they are still meta. I don't know how these champions would play in lower MMR. I feel like you legit don't even need like was caught up in an accident, or I, you know, had some fireworks, I lost 2 fingers, not even joking, like I'm not trying to be funny in this regard, you could still pull off Vayne and Varus top. They are that easy to play, right? So I would anticipate that this champion still probably perform pretty well. I feel like Urgot, and I said this before as well, in my previous tier list in season 13, I would expect Urgot to be good again in the new season because of removal of mythics. Skirt items are very good. A lot of access to he has access to a lot of items, Fleet Urgot is one of the most frustrating things to play against. You can go Fleet or PTA, but Urgot can play both. He has access to a lot of good items for himself. I expect the champion to perform very well. Might be S tier even when I see the stats. I thought minimum A tier, might even be S tier. Pick rate is not that high though. Okay, Vladimir. I expect Vladimir to actually be minimum B tier in lower MMR. Okay, well, this is a tricky one. Because the thing is, skill and Vladimir, I would kind of put in the same metrics that they are reliant on scaling, right? I'd expect Vladimir to be good because he is allowed to skill, right? Which is one of the most important parts of Vladimir. But the thing is what a lot of Vladimir players don't know is that they are still allowed to play pretty aggressive in a lot of their matchups, and you need to know your limits pretty well. You need to space pretty well. Even though your champion has no skill shots, I find Vladimir to still be kind of skill expressive, and it's a very niche champion in the game. But the thing is, he has permanent sustain and good scaling, so I expect him to actually be A or B+. Oh, he's here. He's literally above him. I expected him to do better, honestly. I expected Vladimir to do better. Volibear. I expect the champion to do pretty well. Sustain, can split push, annoying to lane against, every low elo player's nightmare. If you are a low elo Timmy right now, coming back from school, or from whatever you're from, and you lane against Volibear, you're probably shaking your boots. So I expect the champion to be A tier. Why is this champion like classified B tier with this win rate? But like Riven is here as well with this win rate. Like no, I think Volibear is A tier. Like, what are they? They're bugging again, man. They're bugging again. Oh, this Emerald Plus. Platinum Plus? C? C? Maybe! Okay, but like, it's... What about Iron? What about Iron? What about Iron? It's A tier. A tier. A tier confirmed, chat. A tier. Warwick. Kind of same as Volibear, right? I don't know how these champions perform in low elo. I don't know. I expect B or A tier. I don't expect below B though. Oh yeah. Oh. But why is Warwick performing that much better than Volibear then? I don't know. It's it's hard for me to find logical patterns sometimes with champions. I can't find the logic sometimes. Maybe because he has infinite sustain compared to Volibear? Yeah, that's probably why. I feel like sustain is such an important metric in lower MMRs. Sustain is so important, scaling is so important, and being able to split push. So for example, right? So for lower MMR top laners, the most important metrics that I spot, also just looking at stats, but thinking about it too, is the ability to have sustain, especially in lane, the ability to skill, the ability to split push. If you look at all these champions, they all have sustain. They have a shit ton of sustain, and they can all split push. Most of these champions also have sustain and are allowed to split push. So, and then also the ability to stat check, right? So, stat check, sustain, split push. Yasuo, I mean, don't play Yasuo top. Yone, however. I put Yone probably in B tier. So this is the thing with Yone top lane, right? Even in higher elo. 90% of Yone players are able to win lane. Very few amount of Yone players are able to use that lead and play the mid to late game the way the champion is supposed to be played. It's very skill expressive, it is hard, and it is it's kind of very conditional, right? You only have mobility in lanes or in jungle, I guess. But the thing is, as Yone, it's kind of tricky to fight in reverse or even in jungle sometimes. Like, you kind of need something to get your Q stacks off. You can only do it in skirmish. And if your team has like engage and stuff as well, I find it pretty hard to make the champion work consistently unless you're just super skilled on it and you play your lane very well. So I don't expect the champion to have very high win rate. Yeah, well, accurate. Yasuo, I mean, we can check it for fun, but C tier 45%. Yeah, this champion is good, bro. Don't worry about it. Yorick has to be like A tier now, right? With all the buffs that he's received. The thing is, I don't play lower MMR games, but I remember when I was a lower MMR player, I hated playing against Yorick, bro. I hated this champion with a passion because of his maiden. The thing is, I've learned that you just destroy this champion pre-level 6. That's because I'm a Riven main, right? So I don't... The thing is, if you are not the champion that can kill Yorick easily in the early game, so let's say you're like a Garen, right? Or you're like an Illaoi. And you can't kill the Yorick in the early game. He gets the skill, he gets his mate, and it becomes very frustrating to deal with. Is he S tier? Is he A tier? What is his win rate? He has to be above somewhere. Oh, I think he's A tier because of his lackluster early game still. That still probably puts him down a little bit. Like, these champions are... I mean, Garen is the only outside factor, but these are all so good in the early game. Zac top. This is one of the few tanks that I would actually say are really good. He was one of the highest win rate top laners throughout this patch. But I'm not sure how he's performing in low MMR, but I would expect him to do at least half decent. And that is because he has a shit of CST. He can't really split push, but he can if he runs Demolish, actually. He is really good at laning, infinite sustain, super high damage, and he's one of the most consistent gap closers or like team fight initiators from top lane perspective. So I expect the champion to do well, But I could be completely wrong. Yeah, okay. Oh, wow, he might even be S tier worthy. But why is Maokai here so high, man? This is such a curveball for Maokai to be this high. Maokai is like, I don't know, man. I want to even maybe put Urgot here too. Like, he's definitely high. Yeah, Urgot is here, and then probably Zek deserves to be here too. This is Wukong. I put Wukong in. I'm not gonna put Wukong higher than C tier probably. So let's talk about the triple S on Wukong, right? Can he stat check? Yes. Does he have sustain? No. Can he split push? Yeah, he can split push, but he's not that good at it. Because you need to kill your opponent in order to be able to split push as Wukong. You can't like walk next to the turret, smack it, because you have no sustain. I don't expect the champion to perform very well. I feel like, I've always said this about Wukong, I just feel like he is a bruiser. You can play him as a bruiser top, but he does everything worse than most other champions, I suppose. That's how I kind of feel about him. Like, why would you play Wukong if you could play Riven? Or why would you play Wukong if you could play Fiora? Or why would you play Wukong if you could play Darius or Trundle or these champions? So I don't see Wukong being a high win rate top lane champion. B minus. B minus is C tier. Is this the final list then? Did we get everything? This is lower MMR, by the way, right? This is, okay, I say Iron MMR, I say Iron to Emerald MMR. I feel complete with this list. I feel like there's maybe some changes to be had. I will say, the biggest outliers that I am extremely surprised about is Shinimir here, is Olaf here. Maokai this high is also extremely surprising for me. I think Zek doing super high in lower MMR is also surprising, right? A tank being S tier, by the way, is very uncommon in, I feel like a tank being one of the best picks is really strange as well. Can you check Briar? Sure, but like Briar for sure is like just a shit champion, no? What? But it's like no pick rate. No, Briar is not a good top laner, chat. Like, it's not a good top laner. Oh, piss off, no? Oh, no. What are you guys on about? Oh no. Shit. Or maybe it is that. I don't know much about Briar Top. I don't know much about Briar Top at all. I hated playing against this champion in jungle. I think it's absolutely broken in jungle, by the way. This champion is so disgusting, especially when it goes like Titanic Hydra Sterox and just one-shot you anyways. Maybe I should actually try a game of Briar Top. I guess he is A tier. His stat check has sustain and is like super annoying. I will say this as well, but the thing is, I genuinely really like this site. I feel like it's an improvement to other guide sites that I've worked on before, such as MOBA Fire. You see here, it was extremely easy and accessible for me to make. I'm not doing this as like a sponsored or whatever thing, shout out to this. I'm just very happy with the site. If you want to make guides, highly recommend checking out Tactor. One thing you could all do for me is you can check out the tier list here yourself. And if you are goated, could you please go to this thing and give it a like for me? I would appreciate it a lot. Slap a like for me. It helps me out quite a lot. So thank you for that.